welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, Ty DeGrange, and I'm really thrilled to have Krystie Capobianco today. Hey, Krystie.
Hi, how are you doing, Ty?
I'm doing well, can't complain. Monday, kicking off the week right. How was your weekend?
It was great. I mean, it was chilly, but it was awesome, and that's what you expect in Maine, so I can't complain either.
Rock on. Yeah, it was good down here. We did pretty well and got to do some family things and all is well. Well, let's dive into it. What I'd love to hear, just share with the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, of course. So I've been an affiliate for the last 8.5 to 9 years, I would say. I started at CJ Affiliate, like most people do. I started on, managing brands and retailers across a variety of verticals. Um, just getting that experience under my belt. And then after 3 years or so, I jumped over to the agency side of the house where I actually got to manage our agency partnerships and learn more about outhouse management and all the things that go along with agency support. So I was there for about 2 years, and then after that, I decided to hop over to the agency side because honestly, I thought there was a lot more to learn outside of network perspectives, and I was really excited that I did that. So I jumped over to Ovative Group, which is a full service agency, and I was able to really dive in and kind of get to test a little bit more outside of networks. And when I say that, I mean like partnerships outside of the networks, not just all tracked within the CJs and impacts of the world.
Yep,
And that was really eye-opening to see just like the different opportunities that were available to certain brands and programs, and just the different ways you could really pull certain levers to drive in store or drive certain incrementality. So I loved that, and the agency I worked for was really big into profitability and incrementality, so that's kind of what really brought me there.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to share, like, that's such a awesome progression in my view, to be able to get like that network training in the affiliate world, get, very, data driven on the agency side.
Hmm.
So many learnings through an agency, as we've seen, and I'm sure you saw firsthand, and then you get to kind of utilize that on the brand side. It's such an awesome progression. Um,
Yeah, it really was, and
mhm.
it really just it taught me a lot. So I loved my time there, and then I decided, I think I wanted to change. I think I wanted to try something else. So when I came across Rothy's, they were looking for an affiliate manager. I thought that that was the perfect thing. I just loved like the way that they reinvent classic styles all through the lens of sustainability. It really drove me to kind of want to jump over there, and I also love their products, so that was a huge plus and a benefit to me. So yeah, I've been here now for just about 5 months, and I'm really excited just to continue to expand their program of affiliate and do some more testing.
I love it. I was just sharing with you earlier that my wife and I are obsessed with their slippers. So
They're very comfortable. All of our
yeah,
shoes are pretty comfortable.
yeah, I wear them more often than I would have thought.
I mean, that's my go-to in-house shoe is a pair of slippers, so I can see
Yeah,
that.
it's transition into my nighttime dog walking attire. So
And it's good you can
awesome.
wash them then too, huh?
Exactly, much yeah, much needed. So obviously, in the interest of always being testing and incrementality is such an awesome, fun, challenging, always evolving topic around the subject. What are some of the counterintuitive learnings, you kind of derive from the work that you've done on incrementality testing and incrementality work over the years?
Yeah, I think, when we're looking at affiliate and affiliate incrementality, we have to remember that it's not always easy to test that in this channel, and it's not black and white. I think there's definitely some gray area just because we can't do, geo holdouts, or we can't do control groups or, targeting unless we're really reliant on a partner to test that with a specific brand. So there are certain limitations, and I think that makes you have to be a little savvy as a marketer in this channel, and the ways you need to like look at the data and to understand what's the true impact that this is driving. So I think that, there's definitely ways to work around it, but it is a very challenging channel to test the incrementality, I would say, for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that not a lot of people, fully realize that. I think it's a similar um, fallacy that people fall into where they think they can apply, a paid search or a paid social lens to the affiliate channel. And while there's definitely a lot of similarities, it is quite different, especially when it comes to kind of assessing is something incremental or not. And,
Hmm.
maybe that's an interesting, important segue for you to kind of provide, a definition from your perspective of incrementality. Then we can go back into kind of some of the learnings and methods of it as well.
Yeah. So honestly, it's just the impact that your marketing is driving that would not have occurred otherwise. So that's how I've
Hmm.
always kind of rooted the definition of incrementality. And that definition also kind of helps get to that baseline way of how you can track impact and how you can use the data you have at your fingertips for your brands, to be able to see what that impact is.
Yeah, I love that, and I don't think a lot of people are kind of thinking about it. You know, it it, it, it as clearly as that sometimes, which sounds wild, but I think
Hmm.
as simple as it sounds, sometimes it can get convoluted. So I appreciate the definition and your clarity around that.
Yeah, of course.
And when it's a challenge. It's not like other channels. What are, you kind of talk about savvy affiliate,
Hmm.
digging into data. Um, what are some of the things that you've kind of done to get as close to that as possible and kind of increasing that signal in a channel where it isn't an easy just to set up a holdout test.
Yep.
Um,
So what I like to look at, and honestly, I took this from our practices at Ovative just because they were so focused on incrementality and profitability that we had to show clients a way that our marketing efforts were, truly driving impact. So what I like to look at is really just a partner's contribution to the total site pre a placement, and then I like to look at the contribution during a placement because that's really the only true test that we can see. Because your BAU program is going to be running, on evergreen, it's always on type of deal, and you can, put more or less effort into it depending on, where you're trying to focus. But I think where you can really hone in and understand incrementality and impact is with your paid media and your different optimizations you're making with certain partners. And you can really dive in there to see, okay, what was the impact that they drive in a BAU program? What's the impact that
mhm.
they're driving when we're running optimizations or media or paid placements, whatever it might be? And then you can get that lift from the contribution alone. So that is a best practice that I think is honestly kind of a gold star. It should be like the standard across the board. And I think some people don't realize that. Like, I think it can be very hard to track period over period and year over year just because there's so many different things into the mix, and the
Mhm.
trends change, right? We all know that
Mhm.
trends change. So I think when you really want to look into the impact, you got to look into it, what's going on now, what's going on in this moment, and then what's going on when I'm testing in this moment.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love where you're going with this. This is exactly what we love talking about and getting in depth with people on, and it's much appreciated. You kind of used an acronym BAU. Can you give us a little bit more background and for the audience to understand that?
Yes, of course. Business as usual. So what you're doing in your everyday program, what's how your program is running, just, organically, you could say, that's
Hmm.
how I consider BAU.
Hmm. I love that. It sounds like what I'm hearing you saying is to kind of measure incrementality in some of the best practices you found in affiliate. It's somewhat ironic is that we're kind of taking the media buyer, paid media element of affiliate, and you're kind of saying, okay, let's kind of work with something we can control.
Mhm.
Let's analyze the value of those paid placements, before, during, and after,
Mhm.
kind of measure those contributions that we're getting from those to kind of say, hey, if this placement wasn't here, would we have gotten that traffic or those conversions
Yes,
anyway?
exactly. Yep, that's exactly what it is. And I think the other piece of it too is it allows you to see what's working for your brand. So not all placements are going to work and be a blanket across all of brands. And I think that that's a really important thing that this way of measurement kind of unlocks. It will show you, with a higher investment, what was the incremental revenue I received, what was my incremental costs, and where did I net out at an IROAS
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes it's shocking when you see a placement that has a higher value price tag come in with a lower IROAS that might be less profitable. um, so I think that's where it's also really important, where you really need to dig in if you're finding placements that are driving unprofitable return. You need to start
Mm-hmm.
asking yourself why. Like, why was that placement? Is this just a placement that doesn't work for my brand? Or was it the media we ran? Or was it the promo I offered or the ad copy I featured? And you really should dig in and ask yourself, the five whys of why is this not happening? Why is this not working? And keep going until you can't say why anymore.
I love that. We're such believers in kind of like, doing some detailed analysis with our data team around like, hey, how did this do? How did that do? How do
Hmm.
we show if that was incremental or not? And then similarly, like Five Whys is such an awesome framework, from Toyota to many other companies like Amazon that have adopted it. And so tip of the cap to you for thinking that way and being, I think, scientific at the right level. That's fantastic that you're doing
Yep.
that.
Yep.
When you're I've got some other thoughts around this topic. I think this is really, really interesting. Um, you talked about, looking at it through the paid media lens. Are there particular KPIs that you found in those experiences that kind of guided you to say, was it maybe the duration of a paid placement was analyzed? Was it maybe how do you kind of think about like traffic versus ROAS? What are some of the like signals that you get in the data tell you, you know, this actually drove value versus it would not have if it was removed?
Yeah, I think that that comes down to what was the objective or what was the goal of the placement in the beginning before we even locked it in. What was our objective with this placement and this partner? Because there are going to be instances, especially in affiliate, where, you're going to be driving more brand awareness and it's more upper funnel and you're not going to want to focus on revenue. You're going to want to focus on traffic and getting the brand name out there. And then there are going to
Mm-hmm.
be other instances where it's a performance driving placement. You're really looking to pull up demand. And that's where I think you really need to focus on revenue. So I would say that the two KPIs would definitely be revenue and traffic. And then obviously from a return piece, I would look at the ROAS, the incremental ROAS though in this
Love
case.
it.
Hmm.
Love it. And then you kind of touched on some things that, you know, can kind of make or break, a campaign or a placement, like, creative,
Hmm.
offer, you know, copy. In a lot of the experiments and, assessments that you've done, can you give us a sense of maybe um, where it's maybe gone wrong? What are some of those levers that you found it to go where it's gone right? What are some of
Hmm.
those levers that really seem to make it work?
Yeah, totally. I think that sometimes when you're testing, you don't always know what the right creative is or the right offer or ad copy to feature. So I think what I've done in my past is really relied on partners, because partners are running this media with other partners and they're doing it every day. So what do they find as to be the best practices? Where do they see success, and where have they seen, you know, softer performance where we would probably try to want to avoid not running something similar? Um, so I honestly would rely on partners a lot of the times when I haven't tested a placement in the past, or I would rely on my analysis if I have tested on it in the past. Does this support a new product launch? Does this support a promotion? Is this, a new customer
Yeah.
offer? Would that fit? So I would really rely on your partners in this instance.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the better affiliate marketers, partner marketers, even influencer marketing, in my view, there's a really nice balance of knowing that these affiliates are often really savvy media buyers. These affiliates are often very data driven. They
Hmm.
have skin in the game. And so knowing to use their insights and learn from what they've seen work well with so many brands they've represented across the category or generally speaking. I love that thinking, and I think you have to balance that with like um not necessarily taking it always as gospel when the entire negotiations at play, right? Because then
Yeah.
it's funny, coming from the Google and Meta world, you're pumping media into the platform. You're trying to get the algorithms to work. You're managing creative, but has a really interesting human element where they're kind of wanting you. You're kind of both wanting to win together. What
Yes,
is that kind of how you
exactly.
see it?
Yeah, 100%, because I I still think like partners don't want placements to fail. That's not their goal either. They want to see it be mutually beneficial for the brand and themselves. And I think that's the whole goal, and that's why it's a partnership channel. We work together to meet our goals together. So I think yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head.
I love that. Super interesting. And then we didn't talk a ton about this yet, but I am curious. Have you, when partners are on board with, doing a more of a proper holdout and going through that whole process, like, are any advice you have for folks kind of approaching that or thinking about doing that? Because comes at a cost benefit. There's effort involved with running those analyses. Sometimes it's certainly worth it.
Hmm.
How would you maybe coach folks thinking about, okay, we want to run a holdout?
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I honestly think it comes down to a brand being okay with using a partner's data, because you are going to have to rely heavily on the partner to give you that data, because they're the one that's running the holdout and running the control group. So being able to let go of your source of truth data and leveraging a partner's data, I think is going to be the biggest hurdle. And that's what I've seen in my past, where brands really want to use their data and their source of truth. And that's what has really caused a lot of hold up in the past, I would say,
mhm.
with running holdouts with particular partners. But
Yeah.
I think it's definitely possible, and there are definitely partners out there that are willing to do that and test with brands. It's just whether or not you're comfortable using their data or not.
Yeah, and my thinking on that is also really just good documentation and alignment on a methodology. And if
Hmm.
everyone's on board with that methodology, then a lot of good can come out of the learnings and the results, even if
Oh,
it's not
definitely.
necessarily what you've hypothesized.
Exactly. Yep.
Very cool. What do you think are, some of the big mistakes that brands make when they come, approach affiliate marketing?
I think a lot of times, and this is what I've seen in my past, is brands will not understand the channel and they don't understand the impact of the channel. So what they'll do is they'll cut their budgets in the channel and put those budgets elsewhere where they can test the holdouts and where they can do a little more testing to understand the true impacts. And that's oftentimes where those brands will come back and say, I cut the budget. It wasn't the right thing. We saw revenue gaps. Now we're trying to get back on board with these partners, and I think it's also caused some challenges with the partnerships because, like I said before, this channel is all a partnerships channel. And I think like that's what you really need to cherish, and that's what you really need to focus on growing and really developing. And when you're cutting budgets with partners, they are oftentimes going to look for other brands that aren't cutting their budgets. It makes sense because they're business too, and they need to still hit their goals. So I think just remembering that all channels drive impact, and all channels, we're all working together for one goal for a brand, right? All channels are working together. A customer's not just shopping through social, not just shopping through search, they're shopping through all the channels and they're getting touched everywhere. So that's just another thing that I think brands need to remember, that they a customer's journey isn't going to be exclusive to one channel. They're going to be impacted and persuaded
Hmm.
and honestly influenced to make purchases based on the journey that they experience with all the marketing
Yeah,
channels.
absolutely. And I think, not to tout the channel too much, but I think, brands are really relying on, third parties that have, high trust to really
Hmm.
spread the message and evangelize and influence. And I think brands have really taken notice to it. That's what's been so fortunate about the space that we're working in. There's a lot of interest in, value in the data that shows that consumers are really responding to, third parties saying, hey, this is why this is good. Let me educate you about it. You're seeing it all over
Yeah,
through so many things. So I in some ways we're fortunate that that's happening, and I think it's helping. I think it can also come through in other channels. It doesn't have to, you can get a great post that can then be used in paid social, which I think, or TV even if you wanted to get
definitely.
crazy.
Oh, definitely. And I've seen too in my past just, you know, direct outreach with influencers and boosting it in paid social, and then honestly seeing a halo effect in affiliate because of LTK or other influencer networks. So I've
Yep,
seen that in my experience too.
love it, love that. Um, it sounds like changes in budget, changes in comp, or these things happen.
Hmm.
How would you advise someone around the how of like that communication? Because it sounds like that's a really big piece of what you're saying is that um, the way at which you handle these things with partners is pretty important to maintain. Like, how would you counsel people on that?
Yeah, I think transparency is key. I think when it is time where a budget cut is necessary, and marketing budgets aren't always there and people do need to cut costs sometimes, and that's normal. I think it's just important to be really transparent with partners and share the communication and let them know what's going on, because you don't want to just lower their commissions and then them realize it. I think it's better to be proactive, get the communication out there up front, and let them know, okay, this is what's going on.
Hmm.
This brand is maybe struggling in a bit, or this brand doesn't have the funds to focus on these channels right now. And I think just honestly being very transparent, just letting them know what's happening and how they
Yeah,
can work with you in the future potentially.
totally. I think it's so important to kind of try to leave those doors open for brands because you're reliant on each other down the road currently, and it's good to have those opportunities and not shut those doors, especially
Hmm.
when they're really the currency of affiliate marketing. They're kind of driving a lot of value. So I love that.
Yep, exactly.
Very cool. Um, what about thinking about you've seen so many different examples, through your experience. Are there are there maybe partner types that maybe you've seen certain trends with around um, kind of the incrementality scale, or just being really able to drive a lot of value from the clients you manage through the various experience you've had. I'm just wondering if there's trends you're seeing that kind of go tos. You don't have to necessarily name you know, all of them specifically, but I'm just curious if maybe there's partner types that you're starting to see um, really valued more, or maybe incremental for e-commerce. Maybe specific verticals in e-commerce. Um,
Yeah.
Curious to just know what your thoughts are on partner types and those that you've really seen a lot of value from.
Yeah. And I think, again, all partners definitely drive value and all partners drive incrementality in a way. It's just there are some that are going to be more incremental than others. And that's just what it comes down to. And I've noticed, just in my experience, content influencer, highly incremental partner types, they're driving a lot of upper funnel awareness, but then ultimately that is ending up to converting. So it's like they're constantly filling the funnel and helping to drive that brand awareness. I've seen really strong incrementality with loyalty partners. I think the whole aspect of incentivizing customers and shoppers to make a purchase really does drive incrementality and is also a way to discover a new brand. Product deal sites also another way to discover new brands. Maybe they haven't heard of the brand before, but they were looking for a particular product. Great way.
Totally,
And then coupon and deal, obviously, they're driving last touch revenue, and we know that they're a huge last touch revenue driver. They still are driving incremental impact in programs for sure, but I just have seen them a little bit less than the others.
totally. No, I love where you're headed with that, and I think that's such a good reminder. Like, making sure that you're kind of seeing that value, assessing that value, and then rewarding it. It's gonna, vary on a scale,
Mhm.
and with some being the most incremental, and what some being the least. And so, just
Mhm.
being aware of being able to speak to those, define those, and then reward accordingly is I think a great philosophy on that.
Definitely. Yeah, I was just going to say it does really come down to your payouts to what you can offer because some brands have, bigger margins and I do think like there's room to still be profitable and really make a commission strategy at the publisher level so that it works for your brand because that's how you're going to drive efficiency and be the most profitable.
I love that. I love that. And you kind of touched on, last click attribution briefly. It seems like, when we talk to folks, a lot of them are still really, on that last click model within the affiliate channel.
Yeah.
Um, what are you seeing there? Are you agreeing with that? And is there like a model that you would advise like an e-commerce company to really consider? I know it's super unique to each business, but I'm wondering if you've seen cases where moving to something other than a last click model has worked well for an advertiser in e-com space.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of brands, testing, MTA, multi-touch attribution. I've seen a lot of brands testing um, media mix modeling, MMM models, to help get insight beyond just the last click. And I think it really depends on what's working for your brand and, where you understand the methodology and what makes sense. But if you really are trying to get a sense of what is the impact beyond last click, I feel like MMM is a great model to kind of jump into and explore.
Totally. Interesting. I like to hear where your head's at with that, and I
Hmm.
think there's some really interesting options to consider and
Yep,
counsel people on. It's so unique to each situation,
it
which is good
definitely is.
and bad, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to kind of you can't really templatize it. It's extremely unique to each individual, unfortunately, to some extent, but definitely some themes to pick up on.
Yep, for sure.
You kind of touched on like setting up a foundation for success, right? Thinking about, how do you build a really great program? How you kind of think about those things? What other things do you kind of think about when setting up a program for success and doing things at a really great level for an affiliate program?
Yeah, I think again, it's going to come down to your brand's goals, what they're looking to accomplish, and then going from there and taking it one step at a time. So it again, like we just talked about, not you can't really apply the same thing
Hmm.
brand from one brand to another brand. So I think it's just understanding what's going to work and setting up goals and setting up commissioning strategies at the partner level and setting up commission payouts and even your media exposure, setting it up and just
Yeah,
knowing what you're looking to accomplish and who you need to target to accomplish those goals.
that's awesome. Yeah, I love the commissioning piece. There's a lot of things I don't think people realize you can do around, product base and
Oh, yeah.
margin consideration. And I'm sure you've had some interesting learnings on those for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And a big push for clearance too, end of the year, there's product people are looking to push, product level commissioning is huge when it comes to getting product out the door and moving it. So,
Yeah, it's a surprisingly valuable thing in terms of what I've seen too. It's like
mhm,
that liquidation and moving product can be very important sometimes and valuable. So something you definitely want
definitely.
to utilize in the affiliate channel if you can.
Yep, definitely.
Very cool. What are you excited to bring to the Rothy's team after such a great track record?
I am really excited to just expand the program more, just bring my knowledge of affiliate, my different experiences with working with other brands, and just really help build out their testing roadmap and start testing some new partnerships and new placements and really just enhancing the program that they have right now. I mean, it's a great program, but I'm really here and excited to just expand it some more.
Congrats. You had me at testing roadmap.
I feel like that's a necessity in affiliate. You need a testing roadmap just because there's so many partners, there's so many placements, and there's so many different things you can be doing. So, and it
Hmm.
changes every day. So, another great thing.
I love that. And are you counseling brands often in, your past history to kind of think about having an experimentation budget? And like how do you kind of counsel folks on that?
Yeah, I think testing budget is huge, and I would definitely recommend people, agencies or people that are managing programs get that in the forefront in front of their clients just because a lot of clients aren't aware of all the opportunities that are out there. And I think even just showcasing, we could be testing XYZ with XYZ partners. I think it's just eye opening to see all the different opportunities and their investment levels, definitely vary. So having that testing budget is huge, especially when you have certain goals that you want to accomplish.
Love it. Very cool. Let's mix it up with some fun questions. Um, so uh, what's a product that is just a must-have that you might be obsessed with?
Yeah, I really I'm embarrassed to say, but I think it's my space heater. I use it often. My office is somewhat cold, so I do turn it on pretty much every day, but I think it's my number one go-to product and one that I use every single day. So I'm gonna go with my space heater.
I love it. And a little bit of a twist here, but any like must have visits for folks wanting to check out areas of Maine or anything around the area that maybe they don't know about.
Oh my God. So there's so many national parks here. Acadia is a great spot if you're into hiking. It's huge, it's beautiful, it's right on the ocean. I would definitely say Acadia. Booth Bay is another great one. There's just so many great places to go with to experience the outdoors and be outside and get that feeling and vibe. But then also you can't go wrong with Portland. There's so many good food spots and restaurants and I just love where I live, so I feel very fortunate, but I would say those
That's
3
awesome.
places are my favorite.
We might have to come check it out when it gets a little too hot down here. I've heard great things, so it's
Right, oh, because it
fantastic.
will be perfect temperature for you up here.
Exactly, exactly. That's so cool. What's a random fact that people might not know about you?
I am very afraid of butterflies, and I know that it's weird. I know it's weird, but I'm petrified of them. So I don't like
No
looking at
way.
them. It's really only just live ones. It's not any cartoon ones. I can see those. It's just when they're alive in real life, I cannot be with them. So I will not be going to a butterfly garden or museum anytime soon.
I I think it's down in Santa Barbara. They have like a massive migration of them, and
Oh
you're
my
gonna avoid
God.
that. All that would be a little too much. What's the you got to share? What's the reason behind that?
I don't even know. I think I was trying to really dive into this, like where this fear came about. And the only thing I can think is there are their wings and how they flap, because they kind of are like they're kind of eerie. They flap very slowly and then they can go quickly, but
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the wings, and that's all I can get to. So that's all I can give you.
Well, it's actually yeah. Not to get too detailed here, but I don't. If you really analyze it, it's like okay, what other animal has wings that do that? Like it's very it is very unique, right? Like
Yes.
a bird's wings are much different, much more different mechanics. Like they're super slow and like they're not really moving except for, you know,
Yeah,
it's wild. It's
it
wild.
is. It is.
All right. Well, we'll watch out for the butterflies. It's a good fun fact. I love it. I love it. Well, if you weren't in affiliate marketing, what would you want to be doing?
I have a passion for working with old people. So I do think, that would be something that I would definitely be doing. I used to work at a retirement home back in high school, and
Mhm.
I loved working with the elderly. They just are so experienced and have such great stories, that I would honestly go back to working with them in a heartbeat.
That's so cool. I love
Hmm.
that. I gotta say, I actually volunteered in high school at a retirement home, and definitely feel you. There's so much just awesome knowledge and
Hmm.
experience and joy that can come from, you know, companionship and learning and honoring. I love that the certain cultures are very respectful of the elderly and older, older people in our population, and I'm fascinated about businesses that are supporting that, especially now. There's so many. We've got a
Hmm.
couple clients in that category. It's super interesting. So good
Yeah,
for
it's
you. And
great.
I think that's an awesome idea. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean, for folks that want to learn more and dig into all things Krystie, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I have my LinkedIn, Krystie Capobianco. Feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions. But yeah, I'm always willing to chat and just partner with people and get to know what's going on in the space.
Heck yeah. This has been awesome, Krystie. You're got a great experience and a great thoughtfulness around how you're thinking about affiliate marketing. And I'm sure if folks want to learn more, they can definitely reach out to you, Krystie Capobianco, on LinkedIn and social. And it's been a pleasure. We definitely got into some good learnings today. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for the time, Ty. This was great.